Hello live hololive players. The newest expansion in the hololive official card game is dropping very soon in English on October 17th. Quintet Spectrum will be releasing a ton of new cards, and you're probably wondering which ones you're going to want to keep your eyes out for, what's going to be the best for your decks, what are you going to want multiple copies of. So this video is the video for you, where I choose my top 5 cards that you absolutely need to stock up on. But make sure to stick around for the whole video, because I do have some honorable mentions that I'm going to put at the very end of the video. They didn't make it into my top 5 because they're not really staples of every deck, but they're definitely cards that you're going to want to try to get your hands on, because they're going to go up in price once people realize just how important these cards are. So stay tuned. And if you're so inclined, please hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell to get notified of all of my new content. I'm always covering things hololive official card game, and I just recently hit 100 subscribers, so thank you all so much for your support so far, and I hope we can continue to grow and learn the card game together. Now with that said, let's get to it. Number 5 on my list is Tatang. Or I assume that's how it's pronounced? Tatang? Tatang? I don't know. But this is the mascot character for HoloMem Reine. This is a very strong card. In fact, later down the road in Japan, this card gets hit with a restriction list. So that just already shows you how strong it is. Reine in general is going to be incredibly strong in set 2. One of the top tier decks. So we're going to end up talking about her quite a bit throughout the course of this video and for the months to come. But I included this on the list just because of that sheer strength. And its ability reads, the holomem this mascot is attached to gets arts plus 10. So, you know, a weaker stone axe, but if it's attached to Reine specifically, the holomem this mascot is attached to gets plus 30 HP, which is pretty nuts. So you have no drawback like you do with stone axe. You get plus 10, and Reine gets an extra 30 HP. So that makes her super tanky, and it makes her an even harder hitter. So while this maybe may not be a staple in every single deck, it's still a really strong card, and I felt like it needed to at least get a spot in the top 5. Number 4, we're going to talk about Custom PC. You know them, you love them. There's all kinds of PC cards in the game. This one will let you reveal one debut holomem from your hand and return it to the bottom of the deck. Reveal one first holomem other than Buzz from your deck with the same card name as the returned holomem and add it to hand. Then shuffle the deck. So this is an interesting card. It's not necessarily super powerful, but I think it can come in handy for multiple reasons. One of which being that sometimes you just have a lot of debut in hand. You know, you're running like 10 to 12 of these same debut holomem in your deck. And by the mid to late game, you don't really need them as much anymore. If you're really trying to fish out a first holomem. So this is a great way to just go through your deck and get something that you need. So I can see some decks running this. It can be a nice tech card. Maybe not something that you're going to run 4 of in a deck, but it could be nice to run 1 or 2 just as like an option to get out of these kind of sticky situations without having to rely on Notica or Manager Chan and all those other cards where you have to shuffle a bunch and you're drawing at random. This gives you a nice search option, and the requirement for it is fairly simple to set up. So I think it's something that's worth keeping your eyes on. Number 3 on my list is another PC. This time it is Retro PC. This card can only be used if your life is 3 or less. Return 1 holomem from your archive to hand. And this is a limited card, so you can only use it once per turn. But this one's pretty interesting, especially when you're playing decks where you're purposely putting things in the archive or you're discarding things in order to activate other effects. So late game, obviously, something that you'd want to use as it's 3 life or less. So again, probably not going to run 4 of these in a deck, but if you have 1, it's going to be a nice option, and it just gives you more flexibility to work with your archive. Number 2 on my list is Explosion Magic. This is a really powerful card that you're going to see a lot. It is specifically #magic, which is affiliated mostly with Shion cards. There's also some spot holomem in this set that have Magical Girl in their name and the #magic on the card. But pretty much any deck is going to be able to use this card and it'll be a non-issue. But I'll explain why the hashtag matters in this case. So its ability is you deal 20 special damage to your opponent's center holomem or collab holomem. However, your opponent's life does not reduce even if downed. Only one of your event with #magic can be used each turn. So there is that qualifier, but there really aren't many event cards with #magic. So that's not really going to be an issue at all. And just having free 20 damage to your opponent's center or collab holomem is extremely powerful. You don't even have to sacrifice anything. You're not giving up something. There's no downside to playing this other than you can only play it once per turn because it has hashtag magic on it. And what's even better about it is it's technically not a limited card. So even though you can only play this one once, you still have access to all the other limited cards in your deck that you can still play that turn. So it's really just a great free damage card with really no real downside. So you're going to see this in a lot of decks, and that extra 20 damage can really turn the tides in a match when you just need to fix some math and you're just falling a bit short. Explosion magic. And I just think it's so versatile in that you can use it on both your opponent's center or collab holomem. It just gives you a ton of flexibility, and there's really no reason to not want to run this card in most decks that you're going to be building. And finally, number 1 on my list, you know it, you love it, Miko Rone 24. Okay, maybe you don't know it, but now you do, because you're going to be seeing this card a lot. The reason why this is number 1 on my list is, let's just look at the ability first and you'll start to understand why. Draw 2 cards and roll a die once. If it is 3, 5, or 6, reveal 1 debut holomem from your deck and add it to hand. Then shuffle the deck. If it is 2 or 4, draw 1 card, and it is a limited card. Now, let's break this down a bit, right? So draw 2 cards right out of the gate. No qualifier for that. That's just a free 2-card draw. Not as strong as Nautica in that you get 3 cards, but the rest of the effect is why you will want to run this card alongside Nautica in many decks, or maybe even in place of, depending on what your build is. But that rolling a die, you get 2 draw, and you get a potential search in your deck, which is incredibly strong. So you can grab 1 card, specifically debut holomem, from your deck, and the only downside really is if you get a 2 or 4, you draw 1 card instead. So it's like you either get a Nautica or you get 2 cards in a search. So it really just opens up a lot more options than other support cards that we currently have in the meta. The only actual downside is if you're just extremely unlucky and you happen to roll a 1, because there's no specifier here of what happens if you roll a 1. So you just only get to draw 2 cards. So hopefully you just roll anything other than a 1, so you can either get a draw or a search. You're more likely to draw statistically, but you know, having that potential search option as well is really nice, and it just, like I said, opens up a lot of possibilities. So you're going to see decks running 4 copies of this card easy. If you're like me and you like to build multiple decks to play with or to help introduce other people to the game, you're going to want to collect as many of these as possible. Bare minimum, you want a playset of 4 Miko Rones, but you should probably get like 8 or 12 or 16, depending on how crazy you are about having multiple decks to play without having to swap cards around. So up to you, but 100% you need to get your hands on 4 of these cards minimum. You're going to see it for a long time. It stays relevant for many, many expansions to come. It's going to be right up there with your Nautica and Manager Chan cards as staples. So this is a necessity as far as what you absolutely need to pull or buy singles of. So that's it for my top 5. But as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, we do have some honorable mentions. The reason why these aren't in my specific top 5 is, 1, I wanted to narrow it down to 5 cards if you're really just trying to prioritize what cards you want to buy copies of that are fairly flexible amongst many decks. But also some of these just have like similar effects but work for different decks, or they're specific holomem that can be splashed in other decks but are maybe stronger for other ones because of holomem name synergy. So with that said, the first honorable mention goes to what many in the community call gravity cards, because it has a similar effect to First Gravity from Blooming Radiance. So for example, we have Idol's Autograph Pen, which is very similar to like Idol Microphone. So this card can only be used if you have 6 or less cards in hand, excluding this card. Look at the top 4 cards of your deck, reveal any number of holomem with hashtag painting from among them and among us, and add the revealed holomem to hand, then return their main cards to the bottom of the deck in any order. So really it's just a search card, just like Idol Microphone or First Gravity, but it's specific to a hashtag. So in addition to Idol's Autograph Pen, we have Kanata Construction, which has the same effect essentially, but you have to reveal Kanata, Azuki, or Chloe cards from among them. And then we have hOCG, which is for hashtag hOCG holomem, hololive Indonesia Gen 2 for hashtag ID Gen 2 holomem, hololive Gamers for hashtag Gamers holomem, and finally hololive Fantasy, which is reveal any number of holomem with hashtag Gen 3 and add them to your hand. So basically they all have the same effect. The wording is extremely similar, but it's just changing what you're searching for. So depending on who you're running in your deck and what holomem you have, you're going to want to just choose one of these, or maybe multiple of these to have. You'll probably want to run 4 of each, which is why I think it's important to get a lot of these. First Gravity for Sora and hOCG decks you run 4 of, so you're going to see that a lot with these cards as well. So that's why this makes it onto my honorable mention list, because it's technically like 6 cards and not 1 card, but you get the idea. The next card on my honorable mention list is this debut Rene, which has a club effect that lets you send 1 cheer from your archive to your holomem. This is a fantastic card because even though it's only 60 HP, which isn't super strong, it's a debut and it lets you send any cheer from your archive to your holomem. It doesn't specify a specific color. Plus, her attack, very easy for 20 damage, also doesn't require a specific cheer color in order to do that attack. So not that you're going to be attacking a lot with her, but you at least have the option. If you collab with her, you can get an extra 20 damage that turn. But specifically, being able to just send 1 cheer from your archive to a holomem is such a great cheer acceleration card. So you'll see this card even outside of Rene decks. And Rene specifically, she's just so strong. She has access to cards like this, to Tang, and many others that just make her a huge threat going into the next expansion. So I'll definitely be in the near future sharing some deck lists on that card and that hOCG and what you may want to run yourself, because there's a couple different ways to play it. With that said, yes, you're going to see this card a lot. Definitely recommend getting 4 copies of this and potentially being able to use it in decks besides just the Rene deck, even if you don't plan on playing that one. My last honorable mention is also technically 2 cards. They're 2 different cards, but you kind of need one to use the other. So really, we're focusing on this First Bloom Chloe card. So her bloom effect is you look at the top 3 cards of your cheer deck, reveal 1 cheer from among them and send it to your holomem, then return the remaining cheers to the bottom of your cheer deck in any order. So again, this is just easy and efficient cheer acceleration. You're going to see this in decks that aren't just Chloe decks. So it's really strong. She's 110 HP, which isn't terrible for a First Bloom, especially with an effect this strong. And you don't even need to collab to use the effect, so it's not like you're really at risk of putting her in the collab position and then her being susceptible to attacks. So really strong card, and it's also searchable with hOX, hashtag hOX. So that's something to keep in mind as well with the hOX support card. So definitely keep this on your radar. That kind of links to the same honorable mention, which is there's this debut Chloe card, which you're just going to want as many of these as you can get your hands on. I think these are going to skyrocket in price. This one has the extra rule where you may include any number of this holomem in the deck. So you're going to see tons of this card throughout the meta. Also, for a debut, 110 HP is super tanky for a debut card. That's really strong. It's as much HP as the First Bloom that we just looked at has, so that's kind of crazy. Plus, again, not really the reason why you're using this card, but only 1 of any color cheer for 30 damage. Not bad at all. And again, it's any color cheer, so you don't even need to be running a blue deck or a Chloe deck in order to make use of this card or the First Bloom. Really great splashable cards. But with that said, those are my top 5 and honorable mentions for cards that you definitely need to get your hands on in the Quintet Spectrum expansion. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and ring that bell so you don't miss any of my new videos. We're going to be talking a lot about the new expansion moving forward and what the meta is going to look like. So please stay tuned, and thank you all so much for helping me get to 100 subscribers. I appreciate you very much, and let's keep learning this card game together. I also want to give a big shout out to Weiss and Chill. He did a very similar video, which is his top 10 picks from Quintet Spectrum that you absolutely need to get. We just happened to be working on a similar video around the time that his came out. So my list is slightly different from his, and he also goes into more since he's covering top 10. So I definitely recommend checking it out. He's an absolute pillar in this community. He provides so many great resources and such a positive influence on the scene. So if you're not already subscribed to him, I highly recommend it. You won't regret it. And I hope you enjoyed this video as well as his.
Hi, Cameron.